within the office, I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors.
Mark Carney tries to convince you that his government is different, but it's the exact same as Justin Trudeau's: out of control spending, no accountability, and refusing to answer a straightforward question. Welcome back to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. We have a lot to get into in this episode. We're going to be showing how the Liberal government refuses to answer a straightforward question on the budget. I guess Mark Carney's not so good at business. They're also talking about how they're going to sooner or later maybe address the crime problem. And David Eby exposes that the Liberal government is in fact the problem for development in Canada. However, before we get into it, I would encourage all of you to like, comment, subscribe, share this channel with all of your socials. Okay, let's get into it. Obviously, there's a big crime problem in Canada, and obviously the Liberals are responsible for it with their lack of movement on many of the things and their whole defund the police and let's give everybody an opportunity. And of course, there are some that argue that they want the crime rates to be high so that Canadians will have something else to concentrate on, like we don't have enough to concentrate on with the food prices, the housing prices, the energy costs, on so on and so forth. Into this mix, the Liberal government seems to be very lackadaisical when it comes to solving any of the issues of crime. I mean, we have them. Everybody's familiar with the police telling you to leave your keys at the door. I mean, what kind of an answer? That's like saying to the bank, just leave the safe wide open, no big deal. So one of the Liberal MPs stood up when it was asked a question in the House, the Secretary of Combating Crime. I can't even believe that they tried to pass that off as something to be taken seriously. Her answer was exposed to complete and utter lack of not only care, but preparedness by the Liberal government, who has had months and months and months and months, and they seem to be doing nothing at all. They took the summer off.
Mr. Speaker, the second bill that we introduced in this House was C2, our Stronger Borders measure, which gives police the tools to deal with many issues, including organized crime. The next thing that we are doing is we are going to stiffen bail and make sentencing a lot more strict. We're going to partner with police services across the country to fight organized crime, and we're going to make it tougher for violent offenders to get bail and impose stricter sentences. Mr. Speaker, we are taking action on this front to make sure that Canadians are safe.
She talks about Bill C2 like it's some sort of a change, like it wasn't put in place exactly to try and appease Donald Trump. And of course, we see that we didn't get a trade deal, another failure by the Liberal government. There's no successes coming out of the Liberal government. It's just 10 years of failures. Minister of Combating Crime or Secretary of Combating Crime stands up just there in the House and tries to say, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do that. I mean, you heard her. Those were the words she was using. We're going to be talking about drafting some legislation that will go in front of committee. We're going to be trying to talk about all of these things that are just around the corner. Everything with the Liberal Party is just around the corner. Mark Carney promised that he was Mr. Businessman. Now he tells you that there won't be a budget until November. He promised that he was going to make changes in all of these things. And now the Liberal government, who has had months and months and months to sort of get down and hammer out some of the ideas of legislation, seems to have only decided to begin with the new fall session. So they need 2 months to draft more legislation that will counter the legislation they've already written that lets criminals run free all over the place. And this Miss Combating Crime stands up and says, we're going to get to it sooner or later. Don't worry about it. How dare you ask us a question? Don't you know that it's just around the corner? Mark Carney has been talking about how he's going to be spending billions of dollars to solve this problem and that problem. It's always the same thing with the Liberal Party. They're going to do this about housing. They're going to do this. It's all promises and promises and promises. And of course, one of the things that changed during the summer break was the parliamentary budget officer's tenure ran out, and Mark Carney appointed a temporary one, an intern one. And I'm not sure that he is as well versed in the way mathematicians and economists work as he believes. Now, the office, of course, is designed to be very impartial. They're simply looking at the numbers, and I believe the Liberal government wants somebody in there that they can control. Nonetheless, they got this individual in front of the OGO, and they asked a straightforward question, and his answer was shocking, to say the least.
I would say officially we're within the office. I don't know that the government currently has fiscal anchors, which of course causes the people that I work with a considerable degree of concern at this point. With respect to your point regarding the capital and the operating side, we haven't seen a clear definition of what would fall into capital and what would fall into operating. So at this point, it's impossible for us and for you as parliamentarians to assess the likelihood or probability of the government hitting any fiscal target.
Well, it's even worse than it was under Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau. Mr. I'm a banker, I'm a central banker, can't make a budget. He now wants to wait until November. So, I mean, it's 6 months to make a budget. Nobody can live like that. But I guess Mark Carney doesn't care because he's making it rain. It's all about the blank checks. He's just writing checks left, right, and center. We have no idea how much money's going out. We have no idea where it's going. We don't have any idea how much generational debt Mark Carney and the Liberal government is saddling onto Canadians, onto our children, onto our grandchildren, onto you and I. We don't know because the Liberal government refuses to even have a basis. So they refuse to, like when he says fiscal anchors, what he means is places they designed to stop. The limit, the line that's too far. The Liberals don't even have one. In their mind, it's just making it rain. It's like they got their father's credit card for the first time and they don't understand how much money what money value is. So they're just running it up left, right, and center. And they don't care because the bill doesn't go to them, it goes to somebody else. And then he goes ahead and says, we could never tell you how to keep track of it because we ourselves are not being told what we need to be told to tell you that. Therefore, Canadians, the Liberal government is making it impossible for all other parliamentarians to keep a responsible balance on our economy and on our spending. They're not telling anybody how much they're spending. They're not telling anybody where they refuse to stop. They're not telling anybody anything. And therefore, they make it impossible for parliamentarians to keep track of how much money is going out. And that is that's the epitome of irresponsible spending and irresponsible government. However, to give Mark Carney his own fair share, maybe there's just something he didn't tell the PBO. Maybe he has his own answer to the question. And as a result of that, he simply just needed an opportunity to voice it to Canadians.
How big is the deficit that the Prime Minister is running?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm looking forward with the Minister of Finance to releasing the budget on the 4th of November. That budget will contain the biggest investment in this country's future in a generation. Building homes, building new port infrastructure, new trade corridors, new energy infrastructure, building the strongest economy in the G7.
That's exactly the same thing Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau used to say. It's all going to be right around the corner. Sooner or later, we're going to let you know how much money it is. It's been years since the Liberal government was responsible with their money. That's because they can't make any money. They're not making any money, and they want to just keep printing money. But the question, Prime Minister Carney, was how much is the deficit? And you talked about a budget that's coming just around the corner. You try to sprinkle in all of these buzzwords that you think are going to fool Canadians. Canadians are up against it. And they want to know how much money, how much debt you're saddling them with, because they know that all the debt that you're incurring makes their spending power weaker with every passing second. Of course, you were given an opportunity in the House by the Leader of the Opposition. It was a simple and straightforward question. It took him, 5 seconds to say it? How much is the deficit? And you went on meandering and going all over the place talking about everything except the deficit. That tells me that you know it's extremely high and you're afraid to say the answer out loud because you don't want Canadians to understand just how much debt you're throwing onto their shoulders on top of all of the other problems that they already have. For a man who claims to be Mr. Fiscal, Mr. I'm good with money, I'm Mr. Businessman. If you were all of those things, you would have no problem at all. If you were being honest, if you were not worried about the spending, if you're not worried about any of it, you would have no problem telling us the truth. You wouldn't need to hide it. You wouldn't need to deflect onto other subjects. That deflection tells a whole story by itself. Now, Premier Eby was out in British Columbia stomping his feet and talking about how wonderful and great his government is. Of course, everybody sees the lack of responsible spending again with the British Columbia government, and he was desperate to try to convince people that he's out there doing wonderful things. And he talked about a new LNG plant. All of a sudden, the British Columbia government loves LNG, and it's being, ran by a bunch of a conglomerate of First Nations. And he was talking about all of the things that go along with it. Like, all he did was approve it, the environmental part of it, and how it'll be net zero, and all the buzzwords that everybody has been listening to for the last 10 years. Then he was asked about the viability of it and how they can get it up off the ground, because just because it's approval is not shovels in the ground, is not the investment, is not all of the words that they like to talk about when they try to convince you that they're doing something. And his answer really sort of exposes what Pierre Poilievre, channels like mine, Danielle Smith have been telling you all, that the problem is the Liberal government.
But let's be honest with ourselves. If you want projects that are at final investment decision or close to it, that have private sector investment, that result in thousands or tens of thousands of Canadian jobs right across the country, that are going to provide prosperity and a boost to Canadian GDP in the short to medium term, there's only one place to look, which is in British Columbia. We have brought this list forward to the federal government. We have a major project list of 19 projects about how we can deliver this. And that's not even the full list of projects in this province. The opportunity here is unparalleled. But if we got just a fraction of the support that Quebec sees, or a fraction of the support that the Canadian auto sector sees for delivering these projects, I guarantee you that we would be able to help deliver equalization payments to those provinces, as we are right now, into perpetuity, while delivering high quality services for British Columbians. I feel very passionately about this. I know it's true. I've talked with the other premiers. I've seen their projects. Nobody is in a place where British Columbia is, and the federal government needs to look west and deliver on it.
This is one of those times when a politician thinks he's making one point, but he's actually making the other point, a different point. 19 projects he says he has ready. He has private investment. He doesn't need to spend any taxpayers' money. That's what he's trying to say with that. Of course, we all know that these billion-dollar companies could come in a heartbeat with all of the infrastructure and the financing they require if the Liberal government wasn't in the way. So I don't know why he keeps harping on that. However, he then said, if I could just get as much support as Quebec gets, which I agree. I think that all the provinces, like Quebec being played as favorites, bothers me too. Like, I don't have much in common with Premier Eby, but on this we can agree that the favoritism that is shown to Quebec is very, very, let's use the word discouraging. It certainly doesn't speak to unity, and it doesn't speak to equality and all of the words that the Liberal Party likes to use. However, let's stay focused on Premier Eby saying he has 19 projects as well as this one ready to go. Of course, there are some problems with the LNG, and namely C-48, and how the government is not going to allow any ships into the water, so I'm not sure how that works. However, 19 projects, Saskatchewan's got a bunch of projects. All of these provinces have a bunch of projects, and the only thing that's stopping them is not private investment. They could have that in a heartbeat. The only thing that's stopping them is the permission of the Liberal government. The only thing that's in the way is the Liberal government. You heard him. He said it himself. If I could just get the support that Quebec gets, it's all up to the Liberal government. So now everything is stopping with the Liberal government. So really, that's the bottleneck. That's the dam that's in the way of economic prosperity. If the Liberal government was not in the way, Premier Eby himself just said it. He could go ahead and start these projects, 19 of them. Saskatchewan, same thing. Big number in Saskatchewan too. Many of these projects would just go all of a sudden. They'd be on their way if the Liberal government wasn't there creating a bottleneck, acting like a goaltender, blocking the progress of all of this investment from all of these companies to get out all of this product to create all of these jobs. The Liberal government is the problem. It's Bill C-48. It's Bill C-69. It's the emissions cap. Those are the three primary bills that are in the way of the development of LNG and many other things, mining, uranium, things that the whole wide world is demanding. But the Liberal government is in the way. The Liberal government is causing the problem. Mark Carney is the problem, guys. He's not the solution. He's spending money that he doesn't have, that he's expecting you and I to pay back. He won't even tell us how much that is. I mean, Mark Carney withholding money from Canadians, withholding jobs from Canadians, while all the while spending like it's no tomorrow, nothing to worry about. Really, technically, if that was in a divorce, if that was in some sort of a court of law, they would call that financial abuse. They would call that exactly what I just said it is, because the reality of it is that he's taking control of all of our money, not telling us where it's going, and not letting us go out and make our own, not letting us make more. That's the kind of control that you get when you elect Marxists. That's the kind of control that you should expect from anybody who believes that central government is the answer. Of course, if there was no central government in the way right now, Alberta, Saskatchewan, British Columbia, Manitoba would be able to start to crank out jobs at will. They would be able to get their own industries up and running, and then people would be able to have those jobs. And as the industry expands throughout the country, that money would go with it. Then we would be able to build houses. We would have so many things that we wouldn't need the permission of the government for. We wouldn't need them to control our purse strings with such vigor, and they would allow us access to our own bank accounts. They would allow us access to our own jobs. They would allow us access to our own money, and they would be more responsible with what they're doing with our money, because it's our money. It's not their money. Mark Carney's not digging into the millions of dollars he has to make these things happen. He's digging into the millions of dollars you and I have. And that ripples right through the entire government. So him not telling us how much he's spending bothers me a lot. But David Eby, who was out there trying to convince you from the microphone that he has a better position than the Alberta government or any of the other Quebec government, by saying that he already has all of the private investment. He doesn't need any public money. The only thing that's in the way is Mark Carney's government. Exposes to Canadians what Pierre Poilievre and Danielle Smith and channels like mine have been saying from the very beginning. The Liberal government needs to get out of the way. When the Liberal government is out of the way, Canada will be prosperous. Canada will have prosperity. And then we will begin to actually make good on all of these things that the Liberal government uses as lip service, but doesn't actually want for Canadians. That's just my opinion. You can let me know what your opinion is down in the comments. I would encourage all of you to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to wrap here. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.